In this video, we're going to go through a CFA Level 1 exam style question on the yield to call and the yield to worst. Very specific fixed income topics, often overlooked. So if this is something you want to get right in the exam, do keep watching and let's get solving. So this is the question which I want us to have a go at. The following call schedule is available for a 6% 7-year annual coupon bond, currently trading at 103.4 per 100 of par value, which is first callable in 4 years' time. And we've got a schedule for the end of the 4th, 5th, and 6th year. That's when the bond may be called. And obviously, a callable bond which may be called, is a bond that can be retired early by its issuer. Bondholders have no saying in that matter. They'll have to give up the bond and receive whatever is the call price in this case. And as you can see, it's a declining call price. Depending on when the bond is called, it gets closer and closer to 100. That is the par value of the instrument. Now, the bond's yield to first call and the yield to worst are closest to, and we've got options for both concepts. Okay, so as I said, when you have a callable bond, the issuer may move forward the redemption date, and that's a choice which the issuer has. Bondholders have to give up the bond and receive whatever is the price, and we're supposed to calculate the yield under certain assumptions. That it's called on the first date, that's the yield to first call. So at the end of the 4th year over here under these terms. And then we're also supposed to find what would be the worst option for the investors. That's going to be the yield to worst. The way we proceed in these questions is by computing or performing the classic yield to maturity computations on our calculators, but given a new set of FV, future value data coming from the call price, and new n parameters for the number of years remaining, or the tenor of the bond will be adjusted depending on what we assume that the bond gets called at the end of the 4th, 5th, or 6th year, etc. So let's proceed with the calculator. Okay, let's start with the yield to first call, which we were asked about in the question. So we're going to use the time value of money worksheet on our calculators, but this time for n, we will be plugging in the number of years equal to 4, because that's, the end of the 4th year is the first time when the bond may be called. And other than that, we'll have the classic set of parameters, but FV, very importantly, the future value, is going to be set at the call price at the end of the 4th year, which, as we can see, is 102 over here. Now, what is the current price of the bond, the PV, the present value? We are told in the question that the bond is trading at 103.4 per 100 of par value, so that's a negative 103.4. Remember that the PV input in the time value of money worksheet should be negative if you're going to express the future flows as something positive. What else do we have? We've got a coupon on this bond, so a PMT, a payment equal to 6, because the bond pays a 6% coupon on a par value of 100. So let's put these, let's get these inputs into our calculator now. I'm going to say, well, obviously, clear your time value of money worksheet, so second followed by FV, and now for N, I've got 102 for FV, I've got 103.4 negative for PV, and 6 for PMT, and I'm computing, so CPT I over Y, so CPT I over Y, and this gives 5.49%. 5.49%, and this alone allows me to basically limit the choice of answers to answers A and C, which have 5.49 as the answer for yield to first call. Now let's compute the yield to worst, but we don't know what it's going to be yet. We've got to proceed with the yield next to second call, and subsequently yield to third call, yield to maturity as well, and see which one gives the the lowest option in terms of the I over Y, or the yield to maturity. So yield to second call, what we're going to do is just substitute N for 5, and we're going to have a different FV. So no longer 102, because the call schedule tells us that if the bond is called at the end of the 5th year, the call price is going to be 101. So I'm going to have 101 over here. Other than that, I'm going to keep all the other parameters the same. So with the time value of money worksheet on your Texas Instruments calculator, you can simply overwrite the relevant inputs. So I'm going to have 5 for N, and 101, obviously positive, for FV, and recompute my I over Y parameter, which is going to be my time value of, my yield to maturity. And this brings, or this gives 5.385, roughly. So 5.39%, let's call it that. Now, what about the yield to third call? Because there's also that option. This time we're going to have N equal to 6, and an FV, which is equal to 100, isn't it? So just overwrite these inputs, 6 for N and 100 for FV, and see what we get when we recompute I over Y. It gives 5.32%. And now I'm going to use a different color, because it's, it's simply the yield to maturity, isn't it? The yield to maturity, assuming the bond is not called early. So we're going to have an N equal to 7. The other parameters, including a V, they remain the same, don't they? So just have 7, press N, recompute I over Y, and I see that this becomes 5.4, roughly. Right, so we know the yield to first call, and we can now pick the lowest of these yields, and the lowest yield is the one associated with the bond being called on its third call date at a price of 100. So this is the yield to worse. And if I look at the answers, the possible answers to this question, this combination is shown in answer A.